This episode is brought to you by Crow's Craft Brewing Company. Crow's Craft, the nonconformist. Consumption of alcoholic beverage impairs your ability to drive a car or operate machinery and may cause detrimental health problems. Drink responsibly.
Okay, John Joe, let me tell you, okay, we're talking about quality of fucking coffee, right? So let me talk about this. I gotta ask this, because it bogs my brain about this, right? What the fuck's wrong with that Civet cat, man? What's up with that? Here's this fucking cat that chews up these coffee beans and shits it out. And for some freaking reason, it's like the most, it's like the freaking, the most sought after beans that you could get.
It's about the digestion and the breakdown. It's kind of like how when we eat corn, when you poop, corn's still there.
Okay, I can't unsee that now, man. Shit.
This is making me want it less, John Joe.
But okay. But with
There he is, man. How you doing, Jonathan?
Hey, how are you? Thanks for inviting me.
Of course, dude. Kape, pare. Who doesn't like coffee? And of course, who's the man behind the coffee, at least, I love all the coffee you've been, serving. So I can't wait to ask all these questions. There's so many things brewing in my head. And, I'm sure a lot of the viewers are wanting to ask the same thing. So this is going to be really 101. You know what I mean? We're getting back to basics here. So, you know what I mean? Because I know there's so much to learn about coffee. You're going to take more than 1 hour, dude, just to go through it.
Yeah, for sure.
So this is how...
we'll try to...
let's try to squeeze in as much as we can, right?
Exactly.
So just to give you a heads up, this is very casual. I'll be showing, the screen once in a while. We have some segments. I'll be asking questions, obviously. And then it just flows, just let it flow. There's going to be, we want to hear what your opinion about certain things and then we'll take it from there. Yeah?
Yeah. Sounds great.
Do you hear us? And this is John Joe. He's
Hi, Jonathan.
Hey, John Joe. Hi.
So we're all, he handles our sales, marketing, et al. These days, the multitasking. He's also our bartender, our mixologist, everything, man. Co-host. And by the way, behind the camera is Iken, right? Iken is behind the camera.
What's up, man?
So...
Hi.
All right, so let's start, man. Here we go. This is episode number 10. And this is Crowstock.
Cool.
This is Crowstock, and with us is a very good friend, Jonathan Choi. Jonathan, how you doing, man?
Good. It's honestly a challenge trying to get business restarted during these times. But coffee has always been the lifeblood of what we do, and every single day, I'm sure it's the same for you guys. You guys work in alcohol, but coffee jumpstarts your day, and it's really like that nice start to the day that allows you to chug on. So for me, good coffee is really important.
We're gonna talk a lot about coffee, right? So this is John Joe, Jonathan. So there's so much to talk about. We're trying to squeeze it in to at least an hour, right? And get to an hour. So there's a lot of questions we want to jump over. But Jonathan, let's talk about how you got into this craft. Coffee, right? Is this it's a global thing. There's so much to learn about coffee. First of all, drinking it. How young were you when you started liking coffee as coffee and not a dessert? Okay, tell us about your first time, so to speak.
So I didn't really start drinking it at a young age. I actually came from a very different background, not hospitality, not F&B. I was an SAP consultant, so that was IT work.
Okay.
And this was maybe 2012, I want to say. I was assigned to a few projects in China. Just to, I was kind of like, I would bridge the technical aspect and the project management aspect. So it was a lot of meeting with key users or clients. And one day I would drink any type of coffee. Like I was already starting to brew. Like I would use a I would just buy anything pre-ground. The brand didn't matter. I had no idea what origin was. And one day my press broke. I was in China. I packed my French press and I dropped it at the hotel. So it
Oh
broke.
shit.
I had no coffee at the office. Yeah. So at the office, I decided to go to the lobby because it was going to be like an all-nighter for us. It was basically the project cut-off or the project launch. And I was about to go to a brand with the green mermaid, basically, right? Like that was at the lobby of the office. I was about to turn left into the door, and there'd be 8 square meters, no seats, or where you could kind of stand, kind of like in Italy where you would stand and have your espresso. But this guy wasn't making espresso. He was doing a pour over. I'm sure you've seen us do it at the shops where
Yes, that's right. You
putting
just
this
pour over,
hot
basically.
water.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're pouring just enough for one serving, and it takes all of 10 minutes. At the time, I had no idea what that was. I knew it looked like a idea what the guy was doing. So I stand by the bar and I asked the barista, the guy making coffee. I was like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And he goes, "Oh, I'm brewing a cup of coffee. Would you like some?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." So what ended up happening was I waited that 10 minutes and then I took a sip and it turned out to be the best cup of coffee I've ever had at that time. I didn't know what I was drinking, but it didn't taste like coffee. It tasted like fruit. It tasted like tea. It tasted like honey. And I asked him, "What is this? Like, is this like a flavored juice of some sort?" And he goes, "No, that's black coffee. Here are the beans. I roasted them, I ground them, and I brewed it for you." And then I'm like, "So what kind of coffee is it?" And he goes, "Oh, it's called Panama Geisha, and it's a coffee that I bid on at auction."
Dude,
So I asked how
just the name
yeah.
of the coffee sounds like one of the craft beers. You know what I mean?
Exactly, right? Yeah.
Panama Geisha.
Panama
Dude,
Geisha.
That
Yeah.
sounds so fucking sexy.
It is. Yeah. It doesn't have anything to do with the Japanese
Yeah.
Sounds like an R-rated movie.
yes, but at the time that was what was going through my head, like how sexy it was, how refined it was, how complex it was. And he told me, "Hey, if I had sold you this cup, it would be he said something like 150 renminbi, which was like 1,000 pesos." I'm like, "What?" For a cup of coffee? And then he goes, "Yeah, but because you seem so interested, I'll just give it to you for free."
Holy shit. That was your first time. So this was like something new. It's, John Joe,
absolutely.
this experience sounds like, the first time I tried craft beer, man. It's like, what the hell is this? Your impression of coffee or beer is like, what's commercially available out there, the gold fizzy one. And then here comes this opaque looking beverage that, when you start, bringing it close to your mouth, you smell all kinds of things, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, you chug it down and you're like, wow, mind blown because of the experience. So, it's like I can see the two being very similar, right? I mean, they're both beverage, of course. So one is alcoholic, one is not, right? The other actually does the opposite of what the other one does.
Yeah.
But your first time, Jonathan, man, it just sounds exactly like how my first time, was with craft beer. So okay, so you had that coffee. It was for free. You know what I mean? Which even tasted better because it's free, right? And so you said to yourself, and so what happens there is you wanted to know more about it, or how did this end up to where you are?
Yeah. So as it turned out, he wasn't just a barista. He was what you call a Q grader. So in the world of coffee, Q graders are basically like sommeliers. They take sensory exams and they're certified to grade coffee. And he was basically
Okay,
doing
well,
this
in beer,
tiny cafe.
they're called
Yeah.
they're called the Cicerone.
Cicerone.
Today I
That's what they
learned.
call it. So those guys, like the sommelier, and then what's
Yeah.
that? What's that for coffee? It's called a what?
Q grader,
A
letter Q.
Letter
Yeah.
Q. So
Yes,
Q, I
letter
suppose.
Q.
Q for what? Quality. I suppose.
Quality. Yes.
Okay,
That's
there
correct.
you go.
Mm.
Okay, I got that one. I would have guessed.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So he was basically there. He didn't care about making money. He was actually from Taiwan, where there was actually a scene back in 2012, but they're a bit more low key. But he was trying to get it into China. So he was bringing all of this expensive coffee, roasting everything small batch, and just trying to engage with people. Like he would sell his coffee to people who didn't care, but to people who had an interest or showed an interest, he would share. So what ended up happening was I had 2 more weeks in China at this point. So I spent all of my lunch breaks down there, and he would share his journals, his books, his tasting guides with me. So he basically became my mentor, like my 2-week mentor at this point. And when I went back to Manila, I was equipped with the knowledge and that really high bar of that really great tasting coffee of what I wanted to do and what I wanted to achieve.
So what year was this, Jonathan? What year was this?
This was like June 2012.
Okay.
And yeah, so 6 months later, I quit my job. And in March of 2013, I opened Magnum Opus, which was my first cafe in BFO.
Oh, this is the one in BF with the TARDIS.
Yeah, the one with the TARDIS door. Yep,
So that's yours.
That's the one.
Can I just tell you a little sidetrack, right?
I go there.
Yeah.
You know, in 1984, John Joe,
Yeah.
you know, when there was a hidden underground band scene, right? And you know, I was a kid, dude. 1984, you know, going out there watching these live bands like Urban Bandits. Their names, I still remember them. One band, a good friend of mine, they were a three-piece band. The name was Magnum Opus. Exactly. So when I saw that name, that's a great name, by the way. John Joe. You know what it means in Latin?
Which one? No, go ahead. What is it?
Great.
The masterpiece.
Masterpiece, but great, because opus is work.
Masterpiece.
Yeah, masterpiece, right? So it's your magnum opus, right? Awesome name. I think it's a brilliant name. So that's yours, the one in BF. Right?
Yes, and for
I think you taught me the meaning of that.
Yes.
For
that
Whovians, for
BF
Doctor
place.
Who fans, they love that. They love that place.
Yeah.
And another side note, when it comes to bands, there used to be Checkpoint. And then Checkpoint, they wouldn't serve coffee. So all the bands before performing would go to Magnum Opus and have coffee there.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, there's also a vinyl shop right next to it. And Magnum Opus is still operational.
Yes.
Okay,
Wow.
there.
So wait, so you're still involved with Magnum Opus, or your partners, or you're still... That's good.
So Magnum Opus was always a solo thing. It's a single-owned business, all me.
Okay.
So Exchange Alley was when we decided to kind of grow bigger and roast our own coffee and take on wholesale clients, but while still maintaining that cafe. So in Exchange Alley, I do have partners, but Magnum Opus will always be the baby, you know, where I would do things and I would think of something and just serve it the next day because there wouldn't be, you know, I was the sole decision maker in Magnum Opus. So yeah, it still exists for that reason.
Oh, perfect. So here, I got to show this. I got to share this. So basically, this is already your baby today here in Alabang, right? So you've got closer to where I live. So this is my watering hole for right? So Exchange Alley. So how did this come about? So Exchange Alley, you have a bunch of friends that, you know, you decided to put one down here in Alabang area?
Yeah. And what's funny was all the partners involved were customers at Magnum Opus. So there was a time where I would man the bar in Magnum Opus the entire day from opening to closing, you know. And I would meet people who would sit at the bar. It's kind of like alcohol, you know. But I'm a reverse bartender where I wake them up.
Right.
yeah, and it basically I put myself behind the bar and I tried to recreate that same experience that I found in China. But this time I was the one doing the pour overs. I was the one sharing the coffee. I would tell them, oh, this is from Ethiopia or Guatemala. It tastes like this. And yeah, two of the partners started off like that. And when we got an opportunity, it all just kind of fell together. It was funny. We were actually drinking in bar pinchos. And
Okay. Bar Pinchos.
Shout out
Yeah.
Pinchos.
Yeah. Shout
out to Bar Pinchos, Miguel and Tinchu. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were like, okay, we became friends. We would hang out, right? We weren't business partners yet. And my friend Lester, he said, hey, do you think your Magnum Opus would work elsewhere? Like, like Alabang, I go, yeah, but a niche, like a specialty coffee shop, it can't be too big of a space, and I think Molito would be the perfect space, but all of their cuts are big, and
Yeah.
I said, definitely not a mall. It has to be kind of a bit more a neighborhood type of space that
Neighborhoods,
has
yeah.
foot traffic. Yeah.
Kind of craft.
So, yeah, like craft. So we say, okay, oh well, I hope that opportunity comes up, and we go our separate ways. And that very same night, I get a call from Molito, like the releasing manager called and said, hey, we want a specialty concept in Molito. And I tell them, oh, I can't afford it. I see your cuts, they're all pretty big. I have an idea how much rent is. And then she goes, oh, yeah, we have this new building where we're building the generator area behind. So we have like a small 64 square space just for you. And I call up Lester and I tell him, hey, man, we were just talking about this small space, Molito. Let's do it. So
And that's it.
a year later, that's it. Yeah, Exchange
Wow.
Alley. And we decided to, yeah. And we decided to kind of vertical integrate a little bit by roasting our own coffee and sourcing our own coffee.
Actually, I wanted to talk to you a lot about that, because that's really well. Before we get into the roasting bit, I wanted to talk a little bit more about coffee as coffee, right? So let's pull this up. So basically, I love infographics. Don't make me read shit. I like looking things visually, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Infographics are like my best friend, dude. Okay, so I'm looking at this map and where everything is from, right? And look at that. Philippines, right there. Philippines is right there, right? Source of coffee. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but weren't we a coffee exporting nation once upon a time?
I believe so, but this was like decades ago.
So okay, I gotta ask you. I gotta ask you, what the hell happened?
Yeah. Okay. Well, for one, something interesting about your infographic is you see all of those highlighted nations are kind of towards the middle.
Yes.
So that's what you call the coffee belt. And it's areas a little bit above and below the equator where it's tropical. There's no frost, so there's no snow.
Okay.
But then you have high elevations that give you just enough, like 20 degrees. So it's just the right temperature for coffee to actually grow and
super interesting.
Produce enough for, So in the Philippines, I think there was a big focus in producing lower quality coffee, meaning low grown coffee. Like
low meaning low quality or low elevation?
So those, again, this is not always the case. That here, low grown means low quality. And that's because, at the lower lying areas like Cavite, Batangas, Laguna, not everyone, but a good majority of the farmers would rather go for yield than for quality. Mm-hmm. And the main reason is the big corporation coffee buy, big contracts that require this volume. Then I would rather plant cheaper coffee.
quantity rather than quality, right? Sounds like
correct.
Sounds like the large gin producers and large beer producers.
I'm sure there are similar stories with beer and alcohol.
And then with coffee, you have high altitude like the Sagada beans that are getting a lot of praise, but you can only really find them in bazaars and smaller shops, specialty shops.
Okay, John Joe, let me tell you. Okay, we're talking about quality of fucking coffee, right? So let me talk about this. I gotta ask this because it bogs my brain about this, right? What the fuck's wrong with that Civet cat, man? What's up with that?
Oh,
here's this fucking cat that chews up these coffee beans and shits it out. And for some freaking reason, it's like the most, it's like the freaking, you know what I mean? The most sought after beans that you could get.
It's about the digestion and the breakdown. It's kind of like how when we eat corn, when you poop, corn's still there.
Okay, I can't unsee that now, man. Shit.
This is making me want it less, John Joe.
But okay. But with the Civet,
That's
John.
wrong. Okay, wait.
But John, with the Civet, there are fake ones. I've actually had the fake. It just
fake
has
cats?
the claim. No, it's the fake Civet. Or
So they just
mix
put
it up
the
with,
label on the thing and say, "Here's this cat food coffee."
Yeah.
And
I've
they
actually
mark it up.
gotten Balikbayan. I think I got some from Vietnam, and they claim to be Civet, but they weren't Civet coffee. But yeah, the branding has it all, even the images of the cat.
Okay, well,
And
let's I want to hear what Jonathan has to say while I make myself a drink.
Okay.
Hey, what's up with that Civet cat, man? I mean,
Okay.
You know? Okay.
So first off, we don't serve Civet coffee. I'll just say that right now. And
Thank you.
This is opinion based on personal anecdotal evidence and what some industry friends have to say. So I have nothing against it, but I'll just kind of share what I know about it. So the premise, as John Joe said, is so civet cats are nocturnal animals that feed on the coffee cherries. So
they're called coffee cherries when they're still red. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So for some of our viewers who might not know, coffee comes from a fruit called the coffee cherry. They look like grapes, kind of, and much like other fruit or vegetables, they start off as green and then
there's our civet
yellow
cat
and they
right
turn red.
there. Okay, there.
Yeah, there you go.
Show the red beans. Okay, there they
so
are. It reminds me of aratilis. You know aratilis is
yes.
fruit.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's what it looks like it. The size is kind of the same. So again, the premise is they pick the ripest cherries because
Spot on.
that's when something happens in their stomach. Starts to fermentation, and then they poop it out, and someone collects it. So there's two things that, if true, adds value to this.
Okay, wait. I gotta. Sorry. Wait. Rewind. So the cat. You know, supposedly, is it knowing what to choose, what bean to choose and pick and eat, or is the whole process within its body supposedly?
So it's twofold. The first one is it makes sense, right? You only pick the raw coffee cherry if you had the choice. And the second one is something apparently happens during digestion that improves the flavor of the coffee, so to speak. So when the cherries are pooped out, they're basically your coffee seeds or coffee beans, which is then roasted and brewed, right? So in my opinion, the bigger thing that could contribute to quality is the picking, because that's what is lacking sometimes in quality control when it's human beings doing the job.
The
where
what?
They would
Sorry,
just
can
rather
you repeat that again?
Sorry.
When it would be humans or when it would be humans or machines doing the job, there's a tendency that ripe and unripe are all picked together. And in coffee, it makes sense that riper coffee cherries means more nutrients in the seed, which means sweeter coffees, more tasty coffees.
Got it.
So in my opinion, if true, it's the picking that matters more, because that's what's lacking in a lot of lower grade or commercial coffees. The sorting of ripe versus unripe or the defect coffee cherries.
So
now,
basically what you're saying is the Civet is full of shit.
It's quality control. It's basically quality control because they use their senses, like smell, and not just mechanical.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, this brings me to my second point about it. So, because Civet, of course, you can't really force the production. In an ideal world,
you can't force a cat to shit
in the forest. Exactly. You can't force them to eat, and you can't force them to poop. So what happened was people started making civet farms where they would cage these animals and force feed them coffee cherries. And when you force feed them coffee cherries, they no longer pick the ripest, or it's just it becomes it's technically the same process, but you lose out on that.
The pure picking has been overlooked for production purposes.
Yes. So these farms do exist. Sad to say, there's a lot of it's animal cruelty. Basically. And it kind of.
There you go. Nice one, Direct. Nice one. So here we go. We're seeing this. These are actual. Nice one. Wow, look at that. So this is terrible. They're basically they're forcing them to just eat whatever bean, and they collect it and say, okay, this is specialty coffee. Yes.
Yep. And they sell it for 4,000 a kilo just because correct, but it's no longer what the the original intent,
what nature intended.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so here we go. Look at the market. I mean, John Joe, I don't know. I think I don't know if it's, I think it must be larger than beer. I don't know. Coffee has been there forever and ever. Well, so is beer, but I don't know the dates. But they say beer, the earliest was time of the Egyptians, but I'm sure they've had coffee since then, right? When was coffee discovered?
So there's a legend. There's really nothing to support it, but it's like the believed origin of coffee. I don't know if you guys have heard of Kaldi. So no. Kaldi was a goat herder. Okay, so there's this guy. This was in the Middle East. Back when Ethiopia, Yemen weren't really called those countries yet. So that area of Africa. So a goat herder named Kaldi lost his goats, basically. And he tried to look for them. And he found them dancing around, like prancing about. And when he saw, okay, why are my goats so hyper? Why are they like going crazy? He saw this bush that had the coffee cherries. So legend has it that the goats ate the cherries and felt the stimulative effects of coffee. Oh, there you go.
Origin, Kaldi and the dancing goats.
Kaldi and the dancing goats.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Wow. Okay, so that's the legend, and that goes way back.
That's
right?
the legend.
Way back, right?
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
it's
good to know.
Way
back.
No, because it's crazy, right? How it's, I mean, a lot of people, unfortunately, I mean, we're going to go into this in a little bit more detail, but, people's experiences depend, right? What's out there, like, how it is, Starbucks, right? So Starbucks tried, basically his story, I read the book, right? His story was that he was in Italy and he had a great experience. And then after he got that great experience, he wanted to bring it back. But the thing is, that simple experience of the espresso has turned into a damn dessert now, man. I mean, when you look at these freaking cups of coffee, it's like 90% whipped cream, right?
It's
sugar.
I'm
not shitting in Starbucks. I've been there quite a few times, right? But I mean, it's really a sugar high now, right? More than anything else. So I mean, and he's all over the world. He's built an empire, right? So going back to how, and how it's prepared, your experience in China with the pour over and the Italians with the espresso and whatnot, right? And you've had that experience. I mean, the romance behind it, right? So, I mean, has it been bastardized by all this commercialism, like what's going on right now? Are we trying to get it back to where it came from?
I think of it like this. So I too don't bash Starbucks because I have a few friends there. And again, I might tell this story a bit later, but one of the best local coffees I've ever tried came from someone who used to work for Starbucks and left and started their own processing facility in Bukidnon to process coffee. So because of that, I never would bash Starbucks just because I know a lot of people who know what they serve, who know what they are as an industry. And I think people would not spend 150 pesos on coffee if not for Starbucks. Starbucks was essential in bridging that gap. Like before Starbucks, people would spend 20 pesos on coffee. It was all instant.
3 in 1, father.
Exactly.
Didn't it start with the conglomerate? Didn't it start with Seattle's Best, who eventually bought the Seattle Supersonics, and that's why we don't have that team anymore? Isn't that where the cheesemas comes from? There's a documentary called.
Is that really, that's a thing?
There's a documentary called Seattle Gate, and it's about.
I never heard of that. Dude, come on, man! Really?
Me neither.
Yep.
That's.
It's actually before Starbucks. It was Seattle's Coffee that began that. Sonic's Gate.
Sonic's Gate.
Yep. They bought the team.
Okay, remind me. We gotta watch that. So this whole documentary was about that whole issue of
basically how Seattle's Coffee also bought out everything, and then they started the whole what you call this the franchises.
Okay.
And they kind of I loosely use the term bastardize selling coffee. Because before that, we had sachets. We had coffee sachets from different companies.
Yeah.
Correct.
You could also point to Nescafe, but what Seattle's Coffee and Starbucks did is sell the idea of custom-made or exclusive drinks. It's kind of like how the craft industry began as well. But now they're no different from Nescafe. That's why
the thing is, Nescafe. I mean, growing up, right? Around you in your household, you've got those little jars, right? The
Café de Oro.
Yeah, the cafe, right? And then they drink it with condensada, pare. Whoa! You got your sugar, you got your milk, you got your coffee. I mean, right? That was, and then sausaw with the pandesal.
I don't drink coffee, but I feel like people like Starbucks and stuff because they can get it quick. Because a lot of the time, like if you're gonna get a coffee from a Starbucks or
it's just like boom,
it's on the way to work, I'd think, right?
But there's the sugar, man, that addicting sugar in there that they just pump it up too much with syrup and all that. The coffee's gone. Right?
It's probably that too.
Taste the coffee, I mean, like the Q guy. The Q guy just slurps it and it gives a totally different. And we're gonna get to that. I gotta show this. This is something that's mind-blowing, John Joe. Check this out. Look at that, man. Look at the whole chemistry of coffee. It's mind-blowing. It's like when I went through this info chart and I'm like, what the hell, man? Look at that. There's just so much going on in coffee, the aroma of coffee, the chemical compounds that you get. And I guess you get that from all the different varieties, right? Of coffee,
yeah.
Right? So it's like, that's why when there's, and I'm going to be asking you more questions as we go along, but then, it's just, that's why when you have something new, a new bean that you want to try, that's been referred to you, it's probably the excitement because it's something unique, right?
Yep.
Wow.
The beans have their own characteristics. That's another thing that's part of it. That's why there's the lowland grown one and the highland grown one. So the characteristics are very, very different. And there are blends, there are mixes,
Yes.
just to bridge both types.
Oh, so like alcohol, right? Like in whiskey, sometimes there are blends. You put together something and it creates a whole different thing.
Mhm.
So yeah, you can do the same. That's why I wanna delve into roasting a little bit, Jonathan,
Yeah.
because I think I honestly really think that that's where the mastery comes in. Now, when I buy your beans, right, and I buy roasted beans from other sources as well, it's just very different, right? I don't know what it is. Is it okay?
He loves your beans.
I love the
I see
beans,
it
right?
around.
I love your beans. Okay, I love your beans, but there's something about the roasting that we're kind of not giving respect to the roaster. Okay, I think we can have very good beans, but when the roasting is shit, you get shit coffee, right? So I mean, Jonathan,
Yes,
can we just
yes.
talk about the whole roasting process? I mean, here you have green beans, a sack of green beans from Kenya
Correct.
or from wherever, right?
Correct.
I mean, and then
Yeah.
you're supposed to roast this. Is there a different roasting
Yes.
style for every type of coffee that comes your way?
Absolutely. So, I actually am not a fan of pigeonholing roasts into. If you Google, you'll see something like full city, Vienna, light, medium, dark. For me, there is a profile that suits the coffee. So when we create a roast profile to suit that coffee, there's no cookie cutter. Okay, this is our medium roast. Let's do medium roast on all 10 of our coffees that arrive this quarter. No, so it actually takes us quite a while to get a coffee right, which means when we get a new coffee, for example, from Ethiopia, we'll probably roast it anywhere from 3 to 6 times. Okay, I think we did justice to the coffee. I think this is really how the producer intended for it to taste like, or this is really a great balance of flavors. So it takes a while. It takes much longer than one would expect. But
you see, a lot of
for
people
us,
don't
it's
know
worth
that.
it.
A
And
lot of people don't know that. That's the thing.
Yeah.
People should understand it. It's not easy. It's not. You don't just get it and start putting it in a kalan and then
Correct.
wait for it to cook, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of science behind this shit, right? I mean, just like us brewers and distillers, you can't just come up with something and just this will pass, right? But I think
Yep.
a lot of the errors. I don't know. I mean, I've tried a lot of newly roasted beans, and it just doesn't come out the way it's supposed to come out. And I think I don't know what is it because we don't have that education over here. I mean, like for example, for yourself, your experience in roasting, how did you end up roasting beans? Did you take this online school? Did you go to somewhere to learn how to roast?
So I was pretty much self-taught with making coffee or brewing coffee, but for roasting, I actually went to Hong Kong to take a roaster's level 1 course. Yeah.
Okay.
Only because I didn't feel like I could just buy a roaster and get into it,
Right.
It's not like making coffee where you could buy equipment and try brewing at home. With roasting, things can go wrong and fires can start when you roast coffee. Intended.
Oh.
And you can over roast
Like
too.
the difference between a nice dark roast and like a fire in your roastery. Like things happen that quickly, and it's all of these chemical reactions that I also found interest in. So when you roast coffee, it's not just like cooking where it's turning brown, it's turning black. There's actually a lot of chemical reactions.
It goes along. So okay, let me ask you this question, right?
Yeah.
Is black coffee meant to be bitter?
Coffee will always be bitter.
Okay.
Coffee has caffeine. Yes.
Yes,
Caffeine,
and that's
and
what
I actually wanna. Can you go back to that slide where you show those compounds, those chemical compounds?
Sure, there.
That to me is interesting because in a past life, maybe like not naman in a past life, but 3 years ago, I was competing in barista competitions, and people would normally people would talk about the coffee or hospitality or being a barista. I would always talk, and the last competition I joined in 3 years ago, I talked about the chemical compounds in my coffee, and I actually went to a lab in
Holy
Lasal
shit.
to have my coffee analyzed
No
using
fucking
gas
way.
chromatograph mass spectrometry. Yeah, so I knew
Dude,
why
you're a
my coffee
fucking
tasted
geek,
that way.
man. You
Yeah,
are so geekish.
I
Wait,
am.
what
I
did you
am.
just say? Astronaut? I don't know what word you just said there. Using
Yep,
what?
Holy shit.
gas chromatography. So basically, so those 2,4-fluorylethol, yeah, 3-methyl
No way.
butanol, and that's what gives you your flavor profile. So when we say that a coffee tastes like lemon or orange, it's not just marketing that we're saying it tastes that way. It's because it probably contains citric acid and D-limonene, which are compounds that are nature identical to oranges and lemons.
Okay,
Some
you know what?
coffees might have
Let
more
me tell
malic
you.
acid. Yeah.
Let me put you on parallel with craft beer. I would think
Okay.
that
Okay.
this is
I'd love
like
to
this
hear
is
this. Yeah.
exactly like what happens when we create our recipe, right, in
Yeah.
beer, and we have the hops, right, and in the
Yes.
hops we have the alpha acids, which
Okay.
dictate the IBUs, which is the bitterness
Bitterness.
units
Yeah.
that we use.
Yeah.
So basically, the hops mainly are for aroma and taste, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the balance, that's what we create, and it of course there's a lot of the chemical process that behind whether you put your hops early in the boil or late in the boil or dry hop it creates a whole different beer. So I think what this is interesting, John Joe, because it's exactly like doing the craft of coffee,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So when you roast the bean and you
Mm-hmm.
create that aroma and taste profile,
Yes.
so much goes into it. There's so
Mm-hmm.
much science that goes into it. And like you said, you had your coffee analyzed by some freaking scientific instruments and shit.
Yeah. I was lucky that the professor was so much into coffee that I only had to pay him in coffee. Like otherwise
Oh,
it would
that's
Awesome.
have cost
cool.
me quite a lot. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Moving on. Okay,
Yes.
can coffee roaster ruin the coffee? Definitely, yes. I mean, my guess
Yes.
is yes.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I mean
Although,
that's a sad
yeah.
story because I mean, come on, let's face it, right? Okay, let me ask you this. Do we have good green coffee in this country today? I mean, can you put our Philippine coffee beans, whether it's from Sagada, whether it's from Tagaytay or I don't know, Bukidnon, can we compete against the rest of the world?
Yes, but occasions here. So a roaster can only go so far as to make something good out of the product. You still need high quality green coffee. We talked about the civet cats earlier on, but there's more to that to really great green coffee. First is of course how it's planted, the variety that's chosen, the way it was processed. So there's all of this like wet processing, dry processing, and so on. Everything for quality control, which includes sorting, uh, which include either by eye or by machine or both. And yes, I have, and we have served high quality local coffee. Um, I want to give a shout out to some of my friends from
Sure, go
those
ahead.
areas. Cocotos Estate. Cocotos Estate was the last one that we sourced green coffee from. It was such a tiny amount. Like when I speak tiny, there exists quality coffee in the Philippines. I think there's more now than there was. So I was talking about low-grown Robusta. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but they grow coffee for yield, not exactly quality because they're bought out by companies that produce instant coffee. Now you have the inverse of that, where their production is tiny. And by tiny, there was this coffee that we served last Christmas, sold out in 2 weeks
Wow.
because of 12 kilos, 12 kilograms. And that was the entire harvest for that specific lot.
Wow.
Normally, sacks. And for example, Brazil, which we source a lot of because it's quite popular for espresso, will buy dozens of 60 kilogram sacks. All she was able to give us was 12 kilos of coffee. Really, all the flavors were defined, complex. None of the, sometimes you can taste earthiness in a cup, and a lot of the times that earthiness is because of defects in either sorting or processing, even before it's roasted.
So it's
Hers
not a
was
good thing
really, really
to have
clean.
an earthy taste.
Some coffees or raise earthiness. For example, Indonesia, because of the way they process coffee, everything kind of tastes earthy. But in other coffees, for example, an Ethiopian coffee, you're expecting it to taste fruity. So an earthy note means that, okay, there's something wrong with this coffee. But
got it.
The thing was, she was actually working with slightly lower elevation, and she was able to like bang out stellar product, which
that's
blew our
awesome,
minds,
man.
basically.
Have you guys ever roasted Hinebalan, the one from Bukidnon?
Sorry, Hinelaban.
Have you ever?
Hinelaban?
Hinebalan. That's it.
Yeah, not that bean specifically, but so I told you about the Starbucks story earlier, right? The lady who used to work in their CSR left to start a coffee mill in Bukidnon. That was in Bukidnon, and hers was really the first really good Filipino coffee I've ever had. And they were actually the first. She set up this auction, like I told you about the coffee auctions from Panama. She did the same thing in Manila 3 years ago, and we've been bidding on coffees ever since. Coffees from her auction.
Well,
so these are
the
really,
one from Bukidnon is also a friend of mine, right? Perrine. Right?
Yeah.
Renee Perrine, and she's a friend of mine, and I've tried her coffee too, right?
Yeah.
I'd love to see her coffee green roasted by you.
Yes.
Just to see a different, you know what I mean? It's like trying something different, right? Here's a guy, different roast profile of your bean. You never know what comes out of it, right? Right?
Of course.
To look at.
Roasting is, I still think the coffee is the reason for the flavor, but roasting is your own expression.
Yes.
Of what you want to do with those flavors, how you want them to come out. If you want to focus on some part of it, but leave out some parts of it. So there's really that expressionistic side to roasting coffee, like putting your own take on it.
Okay, I got to ask you this, John. Taste of terroir. Is there a taste of terroir in coffee?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
That's
signature of your land, the signature of where you're from. It has that stamp. It's got the stamp all over that coffee.
Wine.
Yeah.
That's exactly how we explain specialty coffee to people. Specialty coffee, more than quality. Quality is still of the most important thing. The second one is traceability. Okay. You can't say that coffee from, for example, Mindanao, Philippines is specialty because Mindanao is a big country.
Okay.
Sorry, different regions. It's a big island, microclimates, different elevations. So real specialty coffee or coffee that's tastes like the land is something that is more traceable down to the farm level, down to the producer level. These are what we call single origin or single estate coffees. And the reason that coffees taste a certain way are due to things that, yes, the location, but also the variety. Variety in coffee is like cultivars, with like how apples have, you have red delicious and Fuji apples. It's the same with coffee. And some varieties will only grow in some areas. And the composition of the soil and the elevation also has to do with
A lot to do
how
with it.
your final green coffee will taste like. Yeah, so
Interesting.
absolutely. Terroir it's a big thing. It's a big thing in coffee.
Okay, I gotta
And
ask you
we
this,
make
John.
purchasing decisions based on that. Yeah.
Based on that, okay, this
Yes,
is
go on.
something I've been hearing a lot about. Third wave coffee. What the hell does that mean?
Okay. Okay, and Magnum Opus are technically third wave, but I don't like being pigeonholed into labels, because when you label yourself as such, it feels like you're bound to these rules.
Okay, but is that
Sometimes
like,
you just
my
want to do our
next-
thing. Yeah.
Like, is it like this? What is craft? Is it being third wave craft, or is that? I mean, is it synonymous to what that means, or what is being
is.
third wave? Is this third wave something like a specialty coffee shop? You're not commercialized. You're not big brand.
Yes.
Okay.
So
Okay.
the waves they depend on the focus, basically.
Okay.
So learning about the third wave. So during the first wave, these are your Folgers and Maxwell House and Sanka and all of your instant coffee, where coffee is a caffeine delivery system. You drink coffee because you want to wake up. So this was in the early 1900s or 1950s, any kind of coffee. The second wave was started by commercial companies like Starbucks and Seattle's Best Coffee Bean, where it became a more premium product, but it was also about the experience. So if you read about Howard Schultz's book about Starbucks, he calls Starbucks, and if you look at it, it's about Starbucks being the third place. You have your home, you have work, and you have Starbucks for everything else. So it was this culture of coffee drinking. It wasn't specifically about the coffee, but it was elevating coffee to that level where, you could meet with friends. It elevated it as a beverage that made it more than just a necessity or a commodity. Okay. Now you have the third wave where the focus comes back to the coffee. And now we start talking about terroir. We start talking about origin and variety and roasting. So there's a renewed interest that can make it taste better.
Wow,
So
that's it sounds like craft beer. Craft beer, the same thing, right?
Yeah.
You've had the kind of beers that went through the centuries, right? And then now we're going back to the basics of the 4 ingredients, right? I mean, right? Water, hops, yeast, and malt, right? So it's going back to where it all began and trying to make sense out of it and give the experience, the beer experience, the proper beer experience to the drinker. So I guess it's pretty much that, right? Okay.
Sounds like it.
Is coffee roasting more of an art or a science?
I want to say both. So it started off as so not in the olden days, but maybe like a decade ago. It was so much about smelling out of the roaster sight when you see that it's a proper shade of brown, listening out for cracks. So coffee actually cracks in the roaster. There's a first crack and a second crack. It's like popcorn, yeah.
So when you hear the first crack
happens, when you hear the first crack, it basically means that your coffee is now brown from green to yellow. Right. It dehydrates, and then some chemical reactions happen, and it turns brown. And when the second crack happens, it expands and kind of destroys the cell walls, and it becomes a dark roast, basically.
Wow.
There's
time and temperature, time, pressure. I mean, there's a lot of variables going in there.
Yes, correct. Yes, power, temperature, airflow, and the visuals and the sounds and the smell. But nowadays, especially for us, like, yes, we want you to taste good coffee, but we want you to taste good coffee consistently. So we've attached probes to our roaster, attached it through USB, to a computer, and now that perfect roast that we did now has a corresponding line graph that we can revisit the next time we want to roast the coffee. So
You
we
know what I
turned
mean?
all of
I can imagine you with your laptops. You know what I mean? It's like tuning a race car, right? Trying to get
Exactly.
the best maximum that you can get on your horsepower and all that. But you're like, watching every single, point going through the roasting. Oh wow. And
It's gotta be hard.
so technology has really changed to give the roaster that opportunity to get the best possible roast from his coffee.
Sometimes, but now the key thing here is you can recreate that accident because you saved what you did.
Okay.
And it's now thing coffee once and it was amazing. Now it's a bit more replicable because for everyone that enjoys really good tasting coffee, there's a number of people who just want a dependable cup. They just want that same experience day after day, and that's what we try to bridge by giving.
Okay, but let me ask you though. There's one variable that changes, right? The coffee bean itself.
Yes.
Because I mean, you spoke about consistency, right? And I mean, we have our issues as brewers and master distillers because you're using organic products, right? And like hops, the hops harvest this year will not be the same harvest next year on its alpha acids and all that, right? And in botanicals, when I do my gin, right? I mean, the cardamom pods this year will not give off the same aroma as next year. So these are the issues for consistency. Is that the same problem that you could face as coffee roasters?
Absolutely. So coffee is a very seasonal crop. Some countries will produce or harvest coffees at earlier parts of the year. Some will produce at later parts of the year. There are some countries like Brazil that have harvest all year round because they're a bigger country. So we try to source coffees that are twofold, two ways for two reasons. One is a coffee that's always going to taste consistent, not the most exciting, but it'll taste consistent. And usually these are your Brazils and your Colombians. Of course, there are exceptions. Some of their coffees are really, really good, but they have a general baseline of what flavors you can expect. First, coffees that are coffees from Kenya, Ethiopia, Papua New Guinea. So these are the ones that you might never see again. Like we'll source it this year, but next year, because the crop isn't as good or it's more expensive because of whatever reason, then we'll probably look for something to fill that void from a different country. So yeah, our sourcing is we have two methods of sourcing our coffee.
Interesting. You know what? I mean, I'm learning so much. I don't know about you guys. This is like making me appreciate my next cup of
I don't even drink coffee, but I appreciate
I'm going to try to remember all this shit I'm hearing tonight. So I'm like, you know what I mean? I'm like, oh, dude. Which brings me to the next question. Is there a lot of snobbery in the whole craft of coffee?
Okay, Magnum Opus and Exchange Alley are technically third wave, but we don't like the definition much. Only because we feel like before, when third wave was new, there was a lot of snobbery. There was a lot of Starbucks bashing. There was a lot of, it should be done this way. This is how you brew your coffee. We should only drink light roasts. We should not drink dark roasts, and so on. But nowadays, it's about reaching out to people and meeting them halfway. Yeah. We feel like the way for the industry to move forward, and that's why we built our concepts around these objectives. Like Exchange Alley, we don't really force can come in your avatar toast and be on, but we use the same quality of coffee in your cappuccino as we did in our pour overs. But if you want to learn more about the coffee, you can sit at the bar. I mean, back when watch the process being done and ask your baristas questions while your coffee is being brewed. Again, hearkening back to that time in China. So we wanted to be flexible with how we would approach customers will taste it, then that's great. That's a win. But if they want to know more about coffee, buy beans, brew at home, build their own coffee shop, coffee from us, or even just consult with us, then that's an even bigger victory.
That's good point. Because
Actually,
in
I have a
craft beer, the
question.
same. Go ahead, Iken.
What do you? We're talking about snobbery in coffee. So I was gonna ask, what do you think about people who do this with their coffee? So can you quit your share screen real quick?
Sorry.
No, all good. I just wanted to show this and say, what do you think about people who do this?
Well, they do this.
No,
That's a
that's why I
skill,
didn't mean it
that's
in
a
a
skill.
I didn't
Okay,
mean
okay.
it in a bad way at all. I meant like, is
Okay.
this
It makes it look
something that's
Okay.
appealing, man.
Throwback.
yeah?
Throwback.
No, I want to know.
Guys.
Yeah.
Throwback to our bartending.
It's
This is
wow.
like flaring.
Holy shit! Look
Look
at
at
that.
that, dude. But you gotta be good,
Yeah.
or else.
This is to it's like
that's still nice.
okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's
Okay.
cool, man. It just makes, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
like
you
exactly
can-
what John
you can
Joe said. It's
also-
like flaring, right? It's like
Yep.
flaring, you know? It's
Yeah.
What's
yeah,
the-
So it kind of shows skill too. It shows that you're in the right place if people can do something like that.
it it does, but to me it's a garnish. Like
yeah.
good latte art won't save bad coffee, but if your coffee is good and you have latte art, that's like a great gin and tonic, a good gin, a good tonic, and
I
some nice
see.
garnish on it. Yeah. So
You mentioned garnish. Well, actually, you know
Yeah.
what? It's time for our next segment on the show. It's called CrowTails. So basically, this is your do-it-yourself crow's cocktails. By the way, do you know where the word cocktails comes from? You know where this, where this, how you came about the word cocktails? Do you?
I do not. I do not.
Okay. Well, we've had two guests in the show, right? And there's
Yeah.
basically two schools of thought. And I'd just like to ask you, which one do you think
Yeah.
would be the most probable or the right answer? Let's just, I want to just bounce it off to our guests, right?
And just a note, we don't know what the right answer
We
is.
don't know what
so-
the right answer is, right? But I mean, they could be both wrong. They could be both right. I don't know, right? But I want to know your opinion. So basically, one school of thought says, cocktails is basically from, the jigger, the tool of the bartender that looks like, the one, it's a jigger. It's a
Like a
steel
shot
thing.
Yeah.
You put the shot
Like a
into the
shot
glass.
glass.
Okay. So basically, it looks like the French term is called a coquetier. Where they crack the egg. Where you put the egg and they crack it to serve it.
Yeah.
You've seen that,
Yeah.
right? Okay. So basically, one
Yep.
school of thought says that since the jigger looks like a coquetier is the French word which was mispronounced and it ended up to be cocktail. Cocktail. So that's the first school of thought of where the word cocktails come from. The second school of thought is that, basically cocktails are meant for you to perk up. So before, back in the day when they needed to perk up the horses, they would cock its tail and shove a ginger piece up the ass of the horse. So cocktail, you cock the tail, right? So okay, so I gotta ask you, which one, do you think would be the most probable answer? The horse or the cockatier?
Because you know how a lot of words we have now come from this obscure French or Italian word origin, and it just snowballed into a different definition. So yeah, I'm firmly in team cockatier. I don't know if that's right, but
Okay,
that's
well,
my
we
answer.
don't know either, right? I mean, we had both these guests, and I love them. Those guys are really cool. It's just that, to this day, there's a lot of, discussion on where cocktails come from. Having said that, let's play. So
That's 1 point, Team Cat.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's actually weird because if you it's Google search. I just Google searched it now. It says that it's from the French word. You never know. Dude.
Well, yeah, but
there's
you
different.
never know.
No, but it's not a. It's not a, like a probable, like a good source. It's just
Correct. You know, we have to
according
understand that
you know.
Google is a source of information, but not necessarily true information.
No, exactly.
Absolutely,
So
yeah.
it's still up in debate, and we have no idea.
Yeah.
Just 1 point for Team Cat.
Okay, so this segment is brought to you by Crow's Gin, the first Philippine craft gin with 24 botanicals. Okay, so here we go. We're gonna start you off with basically choosing an ingredient to create your own cocktail. Okay, John? So here we go. So you gotta pick a juice. From the number of selections here, you gotta pick one.
Let's see. I like my citrus cocktails. I like citrusy cocktails a lot.
Okay.
But let's go with something not seen before in terms of mixers. I'll go with Guyabano. Let's do
Guyabano.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Shout out Mike Ataide.
Okay. Now you're gonna have to put some fresh fruit in there. So from among the selection presented, which fresh fruit would you pick?
I think you can read it out to him also, though.
So there's basically it's between orange, melon, apple, blueberry, pineapple, or banana. Orange, melon, apple, blueberry, pineapple, or bananas.
Okay.
What goes well with freaking Guyabano?
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
I think I put myself in a corner here.
We're gonna make this. We're gonna make this, and John Joe's gonna make this. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So please give me a hard time.
I will. Okay. Let me try to explain my answer. So Guyabano to me is fruity, but at the same time quite milky.
Right.
Mhm.
So I don't want to put a citrus with that. Something that can it's more of a mild flavors that could prop cocktail.
Right.
Guyabano and melon for the fresh fruit.
Melon,
Yeah.
nice. That
That's
makes
what I was
sense,
feeling
dude.
too.
You're a chemist, man. You're definitely a chemist, pal. Okay,
Yeah,
so we gotta put some syrup
just
in there. We
gave-
gotta put. I just gave John Joe a hard time. Okay.
No, it's easier actually. I was hoping he'd pick melon.
Okay.
Because everything else would have been like a nightmare. So
Okay.
syrup.
Yeah. Right.
So now you gotta put a syrup in there. So you got three choices. You've got the melon, maple, sugar water, or honey. Maple, sugar water, or honey.
So because the juice and the fruit are relatively muted and not too bright or overpowering, the sweetener has to carry its weight. So it can't be too simple like simple syrup is, or it can't be too overpowering like maple. So I'm picking the in-betweener. I'm picking honey.
Nice.
For the
Okay.
sweetener.
Try this one, John Joe.
I know.
Ito na lang I
Try
have.
this.
Ito na lang I have honey in my kitchen, guys.
Okay, good.
That's good.
My kitchen.
Okay, now we need an herb.
Okay, the
You've
last
got
one.
basil, coriander, mint, lemongrass, or ginger. Basil, coriander, mint, lemongrass, or ginger. Dude, every time I think of ginger now, I think of like, the ginger
Cocktail.
Cocktail up the ass of the poor horse.
Yeah. Okay. I feel like all of them would go well with citrus, but it's a bit more tricky with the choices we have so far. but I will go with mint. Yeah, let's
Nice.
do mint.
Nice.
It just gives it that little swing.
Correct.
Little punch.
Not too much, not too herby, but a nice tone, a nice.
Okay,
Okay.
how would you do this drink? Would you
See.
shake it up or will you stirred or shaken up?
Mm, good question.
How do you see this?
Yeah, give me a few seconds to think about that. I'm trying to visualize it both ways and see what I would enjoy more as a cocktail. But this would be nice as a cocktail. So I really see it as a stir. Yeah.
Stirred. All right.
Yeah, I see
Okay,
this as a stir.
nice.
Classy.
Nice, very classy, very classy.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna move on. So that's the drink, right? Let's run it down. You chose guyabano. You chose it with bananas, right? Or banana.
Melon.
Okay.
Melon.
Okay, melon. My mistake. So it's guyabano, melon. You chose honey. You chose mint.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mint.
and that's your
And it's
taste.
stirred.
And it's stirred.
And stirred.
I like
Yep.
that. You know, John Joe likes to shake all the time with a shake, but this time you're gonna stir.
Yeah, it's harder. It's harder when it's stirred. But don't worry. I'll get this.
You got this.
Challenge
you got
accepted?
this.
done. I'll get this done. Challenge
Okay.
accepted.
Okay, John. Okay, we're moving on. Okay, here's another segment called This or That, right? So it's basic. It's basically you're gonna pick either one or the other. You don't have to. Well, you don't have to explain why. Just it's you can't choose both, right? You just have to pick one or the other.
Okay.
And then let's move on from there. Okay, this is brought to you by De Puta Madre, of course. Our double IPA. Here we
My
go.
favorite. Yeah.
Ah, yeah.
Mine too.
Oh, shout out to Bing Bassett who took this shot. I love this shot. So Bing, he's a
Really nice
director, he's a photographer, he's videographer. This guy, man, thank you for the shot. Okay, here we go. This or that. So on the left side, and this is an Americano. On the right side is this espresso.
Americano.
Okay, nice. Okay, are you that type that has a different type of coffee during the day? Like you're gonna have your Americano, but maybe later on in the afternoon you'll have an espresso.
It depends. So okay, sometimes it's work. Like you have to taste espresso because there's this new bean that we roasted, or you have to taste pour over. But my cravings for coffee are just at random. Like sometimes I want an espresso at night. Sometimes I want a milk drink in the morning. So
It changes.
It's really different. It changes.
Okay, here we go. Now this is it. Arabica or Robusta? This or that?
Easy. Arabica.
Okay, I read on this, right? So Robusta is supposed to be the one that has more caffeine, but less.
Yes.
Okay, I gotta ask you this, right? But can a Robusta taste better than an Arabica? Is that even possible?
Sure, but it's more the exception than the norm. So there are some, again, by some, I mean people who are really taking care of Robusta, like the same way they would take care of Arabica. So much so that they created this new classification of grader. I told you about the Q grader. There's now an R grader that's specific for Robusta.
Wow.
Only because you judge Robusta the same way as Arabica. If you judge Robusta using the Q grader score sheet, it's not going to score very high. But if you judge it on its own merits, on it being earthier and more bitter, but having a more balanced expression of that, then maybe you can come up with some high quality Robusta. So yes, it's still in its infancy. Like high quality Robusta is still pretty new, but it can happen, and I feel like it will happen. It'll be more mainstream in the future.
That's good to know. That's good to know. Okay, so are you this or that? Are you more on the art or on the science? Ah?
I guess that was pretty obvious with how I explained how we roast coffees and how.
You're more of a scientist, man.
Yeah.
I believe in science.
I'm a scientist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're really
I like
totally
knowing.
geeked out, man.
Yeah, I like knowing
That's
why
cool.
something tastes the way it does. So
Yeah.
science.
Dude, you're the only one who went up with that coffee totally scienced out with all the freaking chemical reactions and shit. That's cool, man. Science is cool.
It was fun for me.
Okay, this or that. So you've got spirits or beer.
Ooh, tough one. Like if you had included wine, I wouldn't pick wine. But
Okay.
between the two, I would go for beer. Yeah.
You'd go for beer, huh? Okay.
Beer.
Makes sense. Okay. Some people
Same
have,
here.
I mean, I'm only giving you one or the other. Sometimes some answers I get, it depends on the time of day. You know what I mean?
Correct. Yeah.
Like right now, I'm having a gin and tonic, right? Maybe tomorrow I'll have a beer. It really depends. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess. Okay. That's good. Okay. This one is down your alley, right? No pun intended, but yeah, down your alley. So are you a French press
the pun.
or are you a pour over?
Pour over.
Pour over.
No question.
Now,
yeah.
Okay. I don't know, but I read that pour over, especially the gate is open, right? So the extraction time isn't as much as a French press, right? So is there like
yes.
does that depend on the type of coffee again? I mean, so let's say if you had this coffee and it had these characteristics, right? Do you suggest to your clients like myself when I buy a bean, right? They say, you know what? When you take that, I suggest you take that on a pour over. Or you know what? You're buying this, I suggest you take that using the French press.
It's kind of like the reverse sometimes. We get asked, hey, I have a French press. Which of these coffees will taste the best?
Yeah.
But,
you know what? Not everybody has all the kinds of gadgets in their kitchen. Right?
Correct.
Okay, that makes sense. But for those who do.
But for those who do, we make sure that we study how our coffee tastes, whether it's a percolation or a drip method like pour over, or a full immersion like a French press. Of course, we'll have our favorites like Brazils and Indonesians. Those that have a fuller body, they're better served with French presses. But if your coffee has high acidity, really nice fruity flavors, has a bit of complexity, then you want pour over. You mentioned that pour over is faster. Yes, but a lot of that is because sometimes people can't control pour overs as well as they can control a French press.
Okay,
with a pour over, it's so much more dependent on technique. Like you should be pouring really slowly. Your grind should be that perfect fineness that'll allow the water to saturate the bed and not drip really
and that's why you've got that, right? You got to make sure
that's why
it
it's
creates
conical.
the time. Yeah. Okay. Wow. See,
And like
John Joe, I didn't know that, right? So here we go.
I actually do both. I do both.
Of course you do, man.
Depends what I have to wash. If I have to wash the coffee press, then I'll just pour. It's nice to have all the two different.
Yeah,
there's that too. Yeah. Like sometimes you wake up in the morning and you pick the easier method, diba?
Yeah.
Like you don't want to clean up.
But John Joe, this or that.
yeah. What would you pick?
That I like that because I watch basketball and I have time because it takes a lot of time for that. With this, you just leave it there to like.
Correct.
With COVID, everyone has time. If you give me a longer or a bigger freaking funnel, I'll take all the time I want to in my coffee, man.
Just using a bucket to pour the.
Okay, John, this is my last bite from you, and I really like the note, right? Hey, Josemari, huge fan of your beers. Enjoy the Kenyans. And you were speaking of beans, by the way. He didn't give me Kenyans. And by the way, I enjoyed the Kenyans very much. Okay.
Oh
so-
yeah. There you go.
Hey, John, thank you so much. We had a great time. I mean, there's so much to learn. And, I wish I had more
Yeah.
time. But, this is, like I told you, it's 101. A lot of us guys want to know more about coffee. And I'm sure a lot of people want to know more about craft beers and spirits. But, thank you so much for joining us in Restock episode
Yeah, I think
10.
this is our longest episode.
Yeah. I mean, think
And
about
it went
that.
by
We
fast.
have- we have-
It went by
We have
fast.
cuts though. We have cuts.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but still, honestly, I
But
think
still,
it is.
this is because there's just so much to learn. I breezed through so many things, but we I think we got tip of the iceberg. There's just so much more. I mean, a lot of things we
Definitely have
talked
an
about.
appreciation.
We have a better appreciation for coffee.
So wait, before we end, there's something I wanted to ask actually in the beginning, which is controversy and social media. How do you guys like your coffee?
That's a good one.
With sugar, with cream, or black as night? We can
I
end with
know
that because that's
it-
controversy right away.
I don't know why is it a controversy, dude. I think it's black as night.
Same.
I'm sure it's black as night.
Yeah.
Well, why? What's wrong with black as night? I don't get the fucking. What's the problem?
A lot of people don't like it. They like their coffee with cream and sugar. Without the cream and sugar, it's like blasphemy for some people.
You know why? Those guys are Trump supporters. Okay, I'm glad I'm not in the US.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, hey, John, thank you so much. It was a great show and hope to have you back again in the future, man.
Yeah. I'd love to do this again. Thank you so much. I love how there's a lot of parallel stuff between beer and coffee.
Oh,
so, yeah.
for sure.
See you guys next time for sure.
Cheers,
for sure.
buddy. Cheers.
Cheers.